This is Matthew Kratter's Bitcoin University. Today I want to talk about the strategic Shipcoin reserve, and that's just what it sounds like. But first I want to rewind and take a look at this video that I made a few years ago called Solana Billionaire VCs Are Laughing at You. That, of course, is the face of David Sacks. But let's listen to this clip because it's going to provide necessary background for what's happening today with crypto in America.
Here, Chamath, Polyhopatia, and I'm your boy J-Cal.
Sacks, I gotta say, I think your AUM is positively correlated with the bags under your eyes.
If you mean it's getting bigger, you're correct.
I mean, yes, they're heavy.
Good Lord.
They're heavy, dragging you down.
That's where you're hiding all that Solana, in your fucking, under your eyes.
You better clear that Solana position. What's your lockup, 24 months?
Fuck no, he's trying to sell it to me on text message.
Yeah, of course he is.
We're negotiating discounts.
I just had the fact.
Hey, you're fucking the whole thing up.
Bro, you don't think
I'm hodling.
You think I buy
You're not
hundreds of
hodling,
millions
you're
of dollars of anything without a discount? Everything is a discount.
Everything's discounted. You want to clear that position in an LLC?
Are you saying I got $1 billion of Solana?
No, bro, I'm saying I have one. But, I brought it at a discount.
But you're holding, correct?
Ish.
Yes, okay. Yeah, me too.
Well, I mean, if...
So that's an example of very wealthy billionaires laughing as they're preparing to dump their Solana bags on retail investors. That was, of course, Chamath, David Sacks, and members of the All In podcast. Well, this is important now because David Sacks has been nominated by Trump to be the White House AI and crypto czar. And given his background with shipcoining in the Valley, we can see what's going to happen. Trump's crypto czar David Sacks is an investor in Solana, focused multi-coin capital, and believes Solana has the potential to overtake Ethereum. Well, that's probably true because everything in the world has the potential to overtake Ethereum. The fact that David Sacks and others are investors in Solana also makes a lot of sense of the fact that Trump chose to launch his shipcoin on Solana. I'll link to this nice thread by Daniel Prince that talks about Sacks's background and all of this. So we've reached a point where last year we were talking about strategic Bitcoin reserve. Senator Lummis had put forward this legislation. And now we're talking, unfortunately, about the creation of a national crypto reserve, or as I called it, a shipcoin or altcoin reserve. So does the US really need a stockpile of garbage coins that might pump in the short term, but that are guaranteed to lose value against Bitcoin forever? Is it really good for national wealth and security to put some money into something like this? This is the chart of the ETH versus Bitcoin chart. And we can see ETH and other things like that would be added to the national crypto stockpile have nothing on Bitcoin. They cannot compete with Bitcoin, and they're all trending to zero against Bitcoin. That's why James Seyffert made this joke here, breaking stockpile to include shorting ETH via perps, because it's the coin that is always going down against everything. And also why garbage coins like XRP, Cardano, etc. I'd personally prefer to add to the strategic cheese reserve instead. U.S. government currently holding 1.4 billion pounds of cheese in the ground below Missouri. If you're enjoying this video so far, I just ask you to help to support this channel's educational mission. Hit the subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, question, suggestion for a future video. Share this video with a friend or family member or co-worker. David Sacks and his VC buddies are not the only part of this problem and why we've transitioned from having a strategic Bitcoin reserve to having a strategic shipcoin reserve. We also have the human garbage known as Ripple. As Pierre Rochard points out here, to all who are doubting that Ripple XRP is lobbying against the strategic Bitcoin reserve, here's the proof. They want to sabotage the SBR with crypto distractions. There's an infinite number of altcoins that are quote unquote made in the USA. Anyone can do it, nothing strategic about it. Here's Brad Garlinghouse, one of the founders and the CEO over at Ripple. Unless you're choosing to ignore the core tenets of the President of the United States campaign, which aggressively supports American companies and technologies, our efforts are actually increasing the likelihood of a crypto strategic reserve, which includes Bitcoin, happening. Now, all these guys at Ripple always have been and are grifters. I love what Pierre said here. Brad, have you ever actually bought XRP or just sold? Because, of course, Ripple printed up the XRP or magically took possession of 100 billion tokens of XRP and has been dumping it ever since. So, unfortunately, we have David Sacks and we have the Ripple guys and who knows who else trying to mess up our strategic Bitcoin reserve. But not everything in this executive order from Trump was bad. Here are some very good quotes that I want to share with you. These are some of the things in executive order protecting and promoting the ability of individual citizens and private sector entities alike to access and use for lawful purposes open public blockchain networks. And really, Ripple is not an example of an open blockchain. It's much more permission, so I don't even know why it'd be included in this. Open public blockchain networks without persecution, including, and this is very important, the ability to develop and deploy software without getting sued by Elizabeth Warren's goons, to participate in mining and to validate, to transact with other persons without unlawful censorship, and to maintain self-custody of digital assets. So these are all wonderful things. You should be able to mine Bitcoin in the United States without being sued. You should be able to send it to anyone you want legally. And also, we now have the government protecting, at least under Trump, self-custody of digital assets, your right to hold Bitcoin in self-custody. Of course, we can do this anyway. We don't need anyone's permission, but these are still nice things. It's nice to be doing something that's legal rather than illegal, and it's good for the ecosystem. Part number 2 of the EO, taking measures to protect Americans from the risks of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, which we've talked about a lot on this channel, which threaten the stability of the financial system, individual privacy, and the sovereignty of the United States, including by prohibiting the establishment, issuance, circulation, and use of a CBDC within the jurisdiction of the United States. Now, this is another very, very good thing. We have people like Elizabeth Warren and the Ripple people pushing very hard for CBDCs, Trump pushing back against them and saying, at least on his watch, we will not have a CBDC in the U.S. Of course, this could still take place and just not be called a CBDC either during Trump or after Trump. The U.S. will probably have Meta or Google or another big tech company run its CBDC, and then it'll give it a nice marketable name like PayPal or CBDC Pal or something. They're not going to use the phrase CBDC. What they'll do is they'll just outsource this to a private company, perhaps at some point. This is the same strategy used by the U.S. government to spy on its citizens. It's not constitutional for the government to spy on its citizens, but it's okay if they can just buy the data from big tech. So the government, the U.S. federal government, has a long history of working around these things. On the other hand, I'd much rather have a president who is saying he's against CBDCs than a president who is very much in favor of CBDCs. Now, in this executive order, Trump talks about the timeline for the strategic Shipcoin reserve, or maybe it goes back to being a strategic Bitcoin only reserve, within 180 days of the date of this order, so 180 days or 6 months from yesterday. The working group, which is going to be working on providing suggestions to the president, shall submit a report to the president through the APEP, which will recommend regulatory and legislative proposals that advance the policies established in this order. In particular, the report shall focus on the following. The working group shall propose a federal regulatory framework governing the issuance and operation of digital assets, including stablecoins in the U.S., etc., etc. The working group shall evaluate the potential creation and maintenance of a national digital asset stockpile and propose criteria for establishing such a stockpile. So we do have time to comment on this and to make our voices known. We have basically 6 months from now. The working group's going to be focusing on this and then coming up with their recommendation for the president in 6 months from now. I'll put a link to this executive order in the description notes below so that you can read the whole thing. In terms of David Sacks being a crypto czar, here's a quick hack for you. If you ever hear the word czar mentioned in American politics, something terrible is always happening, and that really began with the drug czar, who was not very good for the country, put a lot of innocent people in jail. We've had the climate czar, we've had the copyright czar, we've had the compensation czar, the consumer czar, the COVID-19 czar, the cruise czar, all these different, the domestic violence czar, as if the U.S. government could solve all these individual things as statists believe and wanted to. In conclusion, personally, I don't really care if the U.S. ever gets a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And to the extent that the U.S. government remains my enemy, it's doing some good things under Trump, but I think structurally it is still an enemy of individual freedoms. To the extent that the U.S. government remains my enemy, I prefer that it owned as little as possible of the best money on earth, namely Bitcoin. And that's why in terms of the election and the new president, my focus on this channel has been talking about freeing Ross Ulbricht, which we fortunately got a couple days ago, abolishing the capital gains tax on Bitcoin simply because it's not fair to tax money, and also abolishing, and this is very important, abolishing the U.S. exit tax and also stop taxing Americans on global income and Americans who live abroad. We really have citizen-based taxation in the US, and this is very rare. Most countries, if you leave the country and get a job, you don't have to send money back home to a certain extent. And if you pass something like this, if you abolish the exit tax and stop taxing Americans on global income and people who move to the country, you'll get more talented and wealthy people moving to the US if they can be reasonably sure that it's not a roach motel that they can never check out of without paying an exorbitant exit fee. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.